Good morning. Today is Wednesday, July 29, 2020. This is, a notice has been given of this workshop meeting of Commissioners Court of Grimes County, Texas. It's being held this date at 9 a.m. We are in the Grimes County Annex Building at 114 West Buffington Avenue in Anderson, Texas. Agenda item number 1, call the meeting to order. That has been done. Agenda item number 2, to discuss and review enterprise fleet proposal. See attachment 2. We've been contacted by Enterprise Fleet Management. They have been talking mainly to the Sheriff's Office, to Chief Green, in regards to seeing if we could do business with them or they could do business with us. And I had shared with Chief back down the road that if this sounded like something that he wanted to do and sounded like it would be something that would be favorable to the county and the county's budget, then I would certainly entertain the opportunity to visit with these folks. The chief and I did have a Zoom call a couple of weeks ago, and got some more information. But even though I've had conversation and already had a presentation, there's still a lot I don't know and a lot that I'm not convinced one way or the other. So, Commissioners, I wanted to give Enterprise an opportunity to present their proposal to the entire court. Again, if the county clerk will note that Commissioner Dobianski is absent, but no pun intended. Chief, I'm going to let you drive this presentation.
Yes, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
This has been the series of conversations with Enterprise probably since the beginning of the fiscal year. We started kind of looking at different ways to enhance our fleet and maybe provide a better opportunity for the county, potentially with some cost savings. So we've been engaging in a series of discussions, meetings, Zoom meetings throughout, and now we're trying to get all the players on board, the auditor's office, to kind of go through the numbers to make sure this is going to be a benefit and a cost savings to the county. There's some areas I like, some areas, obviously I wish were better, but, in the end, we're here today and let Enterprise go ahead and lay out the plan for the county, and we see where we go for the county.
And just to be clear for the Commissioners, would you share quickly what vehicles in particular you're talking about? Because it's my understanding, you're not talking about the deputies' vehicles that they run the roads with for patrol. Is that correct?
Right. We're actually looking at, obviously, the patrol vehicles, and then we're also looking at our administration vehicles. Right. And formulating a plan with that. Okay. I think there's pros and cons how we go with it, but okay. Either way, I definitely think there's something to definitely look at on the administrative side. That I think would be a benefit of the county. The patrol vehicles, they kind of are what they are. They're heavily used vehicles, right. So either way we go, I think we'll get the same form of function out of it. It's just, there is some cost savings, I think. Of course, admin side, I think, it could be a possibility where we bring all the county vehicles into one and make one fund of this to bring some cost savings to the county. Okay. But that being said, I'd like to introduce Jeff Horner with Enterprise, and so he can go ahead and take over and lead the presentation.
Jeff, just so you know, this is being, one, is Facebook Live, so sure. The real world is hearing us as you present. And secondly, we do make a recording of this, and it will be on our county website after the meeting's over. We have time to upload it, so if you need to review, but I wanted to make sure that you knew you were being recorded, okay?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Green. Good morning, Judge Foth and Commissioners. Thank you very much for your time today. As the Chief said, my name is Jeff Kerner. I work for Enterprise Fleet Management. I'm an account executive, senior account executive, and been with the company for 18 years. With me on the call is Camille Koscheck. He's our government marketing manager. from St. Louis that works with municipalities throughout the South Central region in the United States. With you, you have a packet, and it's a slideshow. I was going to present it on the board, but I think it's easier just to walk you through it. So if you would turn to page 2. Enterprise Fleet Management, as just an overview, has over 1.5 million vehicles. Enterprise Fleet Management is a sister company to Enterprise Holdings. And locally, we have over 100 government partnerships in the state of Texas. We have over 1,200 in the nation. Locally, some of the counties that you're familiar with: Waller County, Harris County, Washington County, Austin County. Most recently, last week, we partnered with Leon County, and other cities have chosen to partner with us over the course of the last few years. What they're doing is really very similar to what Grimes County is doing today. By and large, they've been holding vehicles for anywhere from 10 to 12 years, but they didn't see the true total cost of ownership as it pertains to finding the optimal time to sell that vehicle and really maximize your resale proceeds. We've been meeting with Judge Foth, the chief, and also with Mary over the course of the last 8 months to really evaluate the entire fleet and put together a replacement plan that we feel is going to benefit the Sheriff's Department, CID, and also the administrative vehicles that would impact both the capital and also the operating budgets by replacing vehicles over the course of an 8-year period. What we found is an opportunity to run a newer fleet, reduce your operating expense, and also increase resale for Grimes County by being able to maximize the budget by doing substantially more with less as it pertains to replacing vehicles. If you turn to page 3, you'll see a slide that's titled Delivering Solutions and Results, or Driving Results, excuse me. So when we talk about fleet management, we want to be able to bring the principles of fleet management to Grimes County by lowering the cost with our experience in managing over 1.5 million vehicles here to Grimes County, and being a resource to provide expert guidance in managing your fleet. We handle everything from acquisition to resale, including managing all your operational expenses. If you turn to page 4, this will give you an overview of the background on the fleet today. So as it stands, 64% of your non-emergency fleet is over 7 years of age. And by partnering with Enterprise Fleet Management, Grimes County will be able to field more reliable vehicles, safer vehicles for its officers while reducing its overall spend. It's estimated that Grimes County will reduce fuel costs and significantly reduce your maintenance costs from $156 by and large to an average of $42 per unit. And by leveraging an open-ended lease, you're able to maximize your cash flow, recognize equity from the vehicles being sold, and really create an internal replacement fund by putting you on a better cycle and using those funds to continue to replace vehicles moving forward. Furthermore, Grimes County will leverage Enterprise Fleet Management's ability to sell vehicles at an average of 109% above Black Book by reactively replacing inoperable vehicles to planning a new vehicle purchase and being able to replace all the vehicles over the course of a 4-year period. I want to go into the open-ended lease a little bit to explain what that looks like. But by leveraging the open-ended lease, you're able to better utilize the capital budget and the resources with resale that will help impact the budget, and all of the proceeds will come back to the county for you to be able to use for future vehicles. What that does mean is newer vehicles have lower fuel, lower maintenance, increased reliability, less downtime, and also safety concerns while maximizing the resale proceeds. As I mentioned on the open-ended lease, the way we structure the lease and the way it works is it helps by maximizing the impact to your capital budget by maximizing the capital budget, excuse me. Today's cycle is not due to a lack of effort by the county, but it's inherent with the capital budget limitations that are currently provided. There's only so much the county can do today when paying for 100% of the asset up front. The open-ended lease allows you to fund part of the vehicle while Enterprise holds a residual book value at the end. When we sell that vehicle on your behalf, all the equity comes back to the county, and this is done with no mileage limitations or no wear and tear penalties. If you turn to pages 5 through 7, this will give you an overview as far as the modeling that we put together today and looking at your fleet over a 4-year phased-in approach. You'll see on page 5, that's your fleet profile for all the non-emergency vehicles. And then on page 6,
I'm sorry, when you say non-emergency vehicles, again, this is exclusive to the sheriff's department, is that correct, Chief?
that's correct.
Okay.
Yep. This just gives you an overview of the entire fleet. But 5 through 7 is just going to give you an overview today, specifically on what your fleet looks like. And we're estimating average savings of about $417,000 over the course of an 8-year period, or approximately $47,000 annually. If you would turn to the menu pricing, the handout that I gave you, that is separate of the actual presentation itself. This will give you an overview as far as the proposal that we put together in meeting with the chief. But today, as you look at it, we have currently 8 vehicles that we're looking at a proposal for, 4 of which are going to be on the CID and admin side. If you look left to right, those are 2021 Chevy Silverado 1500 crew cabs. We're looking at those over a 12-month term and estimated annual mileage of $12,000. To the right of that, you will see your
You mean
monthly
miles?
12,000 annual miles.
Okay.
Correct. To the right of that, you'll see monthly cost, which is just shy of $509. Your full maintenance, which is fixed over the life of the vehicle, and your annual cost.
Would you explain the full maintenance fixed?
Yes, so the full maintenance is going to be fixed throughout the life of the vehicle. It covers everything under the shell of the vehicle up to brake pads and tires. We outsource that to the local tax base, and everything is uploaded onto a website for us to be able to track and also to be able to look at maintenance to make sure that everything is being accounted for accordingly. It's fixed and budgeted, and it makes it very easy and seamless for the driver to be able to go in and get that taken care of locally. As you look to the right of that, you'll see the annual cost for the 4 trucks, which is $26,000. And then from there, you'll see the residual book balance. I want to touch on that. So at the end of the term, you're seeing $24,000 left owed on that vehicle. However, since Enterprise sells vehicles better than anyone else, you have $33,000 valued on that pickup truck. So the difference between the residual book balance and also the estimated balance at term is $8,000, roughly $8,900 that would come back to the county. If you look below that, you'll see the mid-size SUVs that we presented, and those are the emergency response vehicles. Those are on a 36-month term, $30,000 miles annually. And you'll see that those vehicles are worth just shy of $6,000 at the end of term. All in, your total cost for year 1 is going to be $70,000 for the lease, and then the aftermarket on the vehicles are going to be $69,000. So your total budget is just $139,000, $435 by doing it through Enterprise. If you decided to do this on your own, you're looking at $313,000 for the county. So we're showing a savings of $174,000 by doing that through Enterprise. Coupled with the fact that we have estimated equity at term of almost $59,000 that will come back to the county for you to be able to use for future vehicles and truly creating an internal replacement fund.
How much, can you repeat that sentence one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure. So at the end of term, all of the vehicles that are on this list, all 8 of them, the estimated equity at term is just shy of $59,000. That will come back to the county for you to be able to use for future vehicles and continue to reduce your payments. This is exactly why we've had over 100 partnerships in the state of Texas, not only by being able to do more with less, but it's a great opportunity for us to help maximize the budget really look at the operational budget by maximizing the capital budget. And as we move forward with the 8 units with Grimes County, as we talked about, your estimated savings is about $417,000. This is exactly why most of our partnerships have started in the state of Texas and why we continue to grow and move forward with them throughout the South Central region. With that, I'll open it up to questions, and I have Camille on the line also from our government marketing team to be able to answer questions as well.
So just to clarify for me once again, this is rotating the vehicles every 12 months, correct?
So if you look at the very first pickup truck, which is the half ton, those are going to be on a 12-month cycle. And here's the reason why. As a government partnership, you're able to buy vehicles better than anyone else in the public today. By and large, on average, $3,000 to $4,000 better. Since Enterprise can sell vehicles better than anyone else, we've identified that at a 12-month cycle, you're either cash positive or in some cases just neutral. So you're running those trucks essentially for free over the course of 12 months because of how well you're able to leverage it. With the emergency response vehicles, those are over 36 months. And that's because of the mileage application of 30,000 miles annually, but also because of the aftermarket that you currently have in those vehicles, which is just shy of $70,000. It doesn't make sense to hold on to a vehicle that has that amount of aftermarket and rotate it every 12 months. So we've put it on a 12 months or a 36-month cycle, just shy of 100,000 miles to start evaluating it at that point. Does that answer your question, Judge?
It does. Are the 30, then on the 36-month rotation, why is there nothing in the maintenance program? We're above it's $33.90 a month on the pickups, but on the SUVs, there's nothing.
Great question. So on emergency response vehicles, we're not able to provide the full maintenance program. However, we are able to provide maintenance management, which is $7 a month. You're able to still outsource it to the tax base and then take advantage of our parts and labor rates. And that's just a pass-through charge to the county. Camille, I don't know if you want to further explain the emergency response maintenance program.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. So the vehicles, the non-emergency vehicles you see with the full maintenance program, really the way that program works is Enterprise has the ability to track a tremendous amount of data based on the fleet that we operate. So we've got nearly 2 million of our own vehicles and another 500,000 of our customers' vehicles that we manage. That gives us a lot of data to tap into to be able to estimate what the cost of maintenance on a vehicle would be, which is really what the full maintenance program is. It's just flatlines costs. However, there's no consistency for emergency response vehicles. They're high idle vehicles. There's a lot of aftermarket that goes into them that can impact the maintenance of the vehicles. So we just, as it stands today, we don't have the ability to offer that because there isn't enough data out there as to how to flatline those costs. So we do offer the maintenance management program for our customers, but again, that's on all non-emergency vehicles.
Thank you.
So what did he say, what did you say they offer if they don't offer the full maintenance?
So we offer the maintenance management program for the emergency response vehicles. That still gives you the ability, Commissioner Walker, to be able to utilize the local tax base to have the vehicles fixed at the same maintenance locations, and then we pass that through to the county. But you are able to use our parts and labor rates that are already pre-negotiated with those facilities here.
And what cost?
Maintenance would continue being done the way that it is today on the emergency vehicles.
So at what cost would that program run?
So that's $7 per month,
Per vehicle.
and then it's passed through on whatever the cost is for the maintenance based upon our negotiated rates.
So that's $84 a year per vehicle.
Correct. And with that, we also have 1,100 ASC certified techs in St. Louis. Their job is to audit all of the fixes and to make sure that everything is accurate so that when we meet each quarter, we're able to evaluate the true total cost of ownership for each vehicle and when it makes the most sense or the optimal hold period to be able to cycle out of it.
mean, it sounds too good to be true, but, you know, I kind of made that comment to you, I think in the last presentation. It's like, when you see it, why wouldn't you do it? But certainly, there's got to be some reasons why we wouldn't do it. Are there more reasons why we would do it? You know, I guess we go to the Benjamin Franklin chart. Is there more pluses or more minuses? So commissioners, you know, give Jeff your best shot.
Who actually owns the vehicles?
So Enterprise holds title to the vehicle today, but the way it works is you own all of the equity or the resale proceeds. So like, all of the proceeds come back to you.
So are you willing to guarantee 109% on the resale?
So, great question. So these are very conservative numbers, and while we won't guarantee it, I'm very confident in it. If the miles go up on the vehicle, obviously the equity or the resale proceeds are gonna go down a little bit. But based upon all of the government partnerships we have in the state of Texas, this is the #1 reason why our clients partner with us.
So there's a limited number of miles that each vehicle can be driven?
There is not, it's open-ended. So an open-ended equity lease simply means that there's no wear and tear, no piled mileage penalties. But when we do evaluate those vehicles each year, we're gonna recommend the right time to cycle out of it based upon the maintenance or operating costs, but also based upon when we believe is the best time to sell it, based upon the wholesale market.
Jeff, this might be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about the account manager and what they're gonna do with this.
Sure, I think great segue. So with that, we also have a local account management team that will be assigned strictly to Grimes County. Their job is to meet with you quarterly. The first meeting is a fleet analysis meeting where they're gonna evaluate the fleet, similar to the profiles that I put together recommendations, look at all the major manufacturers and make sure that we're able to provide you the best vehicle or the best tool for the job. The second meeting is an annual client review. That's our report card. At the end of the day, we're graded on hitting the numbers that we said we were gonna hit, and that's really when we're gonna sit down and look at the numbers and accurately show you where we landed for the year to make sure that we're able to back up exactly what we're saying. And then the third meeting is just to get to know the community and meet you outside of the office where we want to build a relationship. A lot of people use the word vendor. That's not Enterprise. We're family owned. We want to have that family relationship with you and be able to work with you as a partner side by side and be able to give proactive recommendations.
So there's been some talk about non-emergency and emergency vehicles. How do we have non-emergency vehicles at the sheriff's department? Because at the end of the day, if these guys need to respond, it then becomes an emergency vehicle. I mean, it's an emergency vehicle at any given time.
Sure, so the definition of an emergency vehicle is a vehicle that is a patrol vehicle, in layman's terms, that has lights and that has a siren on it. A CID or an admin unit is not considered emergency because it is not equipped with that aftermarket.
Well, to a degree. What I classify them as, it's non-emergency vehicles are pretty much the standard vehicle that anybody can go buy on a car lot and use. And that's what we're doing with our CID and admin vehicles. We buy, just regular fleet service type vehicles that anybody. Enterprise goes by fleet vehicles for their rental fleet and stuff like that. They're kind of a lower grade tier, but they're just a normal car. Now, the patrol vehicles, are specifically designed for patrol aspects. They got the heavy duty alternators, extra wiring. They're already pre-wired for some of the radio systems and stuff like that. Now, we will put lights on the non-emergency vehicle, but kind of going into this, looking at this, what we'll do, obviously to maximize return is we'll instead of kind of hardwiring everything in, we'll go into more of the lights that we, mount suction cuffs. Something that's easier and we don't got to drill into the vehicle. So at the end of the year when the lease is up, we can just pull that stuff and put them in the next vehicle and go from there. I mean, obviously the radios, we'll have to look at how we're going to mount those, but that can be just easy as putting in some kind of console and mounting the radios. That way we don't destroy anything inside the vehicle, so when they do sell them, we can get the maximum value out of it.
So for the most part, any adjustments you're gonna make to like CID is gonna be add-on versus built-in? Is
Well,
that-
yeah, they're all kind of add-on, but once you get into the patrol vehicles, yeah, they're really, you know, they're taking down the headliners, running cables, wiring. And they're pretty more hard fix. Now, what we're looking at, if they go on a 3-year rotation, obviously we'll buy the equipment. And, you know, when those go out, we'll hopefully be able to transfer the vast majority of the equipment over into the new one. There'll be a couple things that might change, depending on what kind of vehicles we buy, obviously, and what changes they make. Ford has been pretty consistent when they change their vehicles. They kind of keep it so you could utilize the same case barriers in there, and that you don't have to really swap those out. You know, we're transitioning from the Chevrolets to Fords, so, you know, we're having to buy all that equipment, and then obviously the electronic equipment, the radios, the video cameras, and stuff like that, we based on continual life expectancy of it. So most likely we'll be able to transfer the big bulk of the stuff, the more expensive stuff over, and hopefully we can get at least 2 cycles, possibly 3 cycles out of it, out of that equipment.
And the way it would work too is once those vehicles were finished that term, Enterprise coordinates all of the aftermarket. We work side by side with the team to make sure that it's all fitted correctly and it's drop shipped, turnkey ready to go for the sheriff's department. Then in turn, we would pick up that other vehicle that was just finished that term, we would sell it on your behalf, and that equity or resale proceeds would come back to the county for future vehicles or for other departments.
Do you get preferential, does Enterprise get preferential delivery on the new vehicles when it's replacement time? And the reason I asked that question, I know when we've gone to buy some of our SO vehicles, you know, it's a 90-day wait, or we're already out of this year's model, you gotta wait till next year's model. And sometimes we're trying to beat the budget, if you will, before that budget's over, we still haven't been able to buy the vehicle. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Chief.
No, because currently, you know, a few weeks ago, the vehicles we ordered back in October, you know, obviously COVID played some hand in this, the production shutdown. But I was told a few weeks ago we should be looking at the first week of July, the vehicles coming in. Haven't heard a response. I just sent a response this morning, so I'm still waiting. We still haven't received those vehicles. I'm not even sure if they came in from the factory yet. So, and you know, here we're almost in July, so we got two more months on this budget cycle. So I'm faced with the situation is are we not going to get vehicles this year, and that's going to put us even further behind going into next year?
Right.
Or, you know, are we going to have to backtrack and look at something else, cancel that order, and go ahead and stock up on the admin and CID so we can concentrate in the future for patrol? I mean.
So Jeff, could you answer my question?
Yeah,
then?
absolutely. So we have over 19,000 relationships with individual dealers nationwide. Those are the dealers that we work day in and day out with as far as selling vehicles. The advantage that you have with us and having an account manager is we're going to proactively factory order these vehicles months in advance. So they're going to drop ship in time when it's time to replace the other vehicle versus having to go to a local dealer and look at what inventory is left. I will tell you, if there are needs for vehicles under a short-term perspective, we have great relationships and we work day in and day out with these dealers. So they have been very good as far as being proactive with us and being able to provide vehicles. An example I'll provide, last week with Leon County, they had a need for 6 Tahoes that are silver. Well, unfortunately, the 2021 version is not being made in silver, but we were able to find 6 very quickly, and we're in the process of getting those turned around by October. So leveraging our relationships, having our account manager and providing proactive recommendations, coupled with the resources we have, I'm very confident that we're able to increase that dramatically.
So is it possible because of Enterprise relationships, that's why we can't get our vehicles? You don't have to answer that question. That's all right.
You gotta laugh at a Camille.
Okay.
There's only a few dealers that specialize in police vehicles throughout the state. There's, 3 or 4 of them. And so all the police departments go to these same
Right.
dealers. And,
Yeah.
we're buying 3 competing, Harris County and Dallas that are buying, Montgomery County are buying hundreds of them. Unfortunately, I think sometimes we just get kind of pushed a little bit.
So what happens to the fleet you have now that you're replacing? I mean, those vehicles, will they get traded in? What happens with those?
Yeah, they're current fleet, y'all sell pressure, we sell.
Correct. So we would sell those on your behalf, and the proceeds would come back to the county. We certainly would evaluate those ahead of time to make sure that we are able to get top dollars for those vehicles, and then let that equity come back to you.
Okay, so the equity goes into a fund, a fleet fund, or what do you call it?
It would go into whatever.
Yeah, it would have to be
fund
something that
that
we set up with the auditor's office, how the proceeds from those vehicles go back in and will help cover some of the expense of the lease. And then as years go by, obviously your equity kind of builds up, because just on some of the spreadsheets I've done based on the non-emergency vehicles, I think within basically a year and a half, if you gotta wait for 2 years to fully sell it, I think you recover your money back from the non-emergency vehicles, and each year going forward, it's just it's a net gain for you. Now, obviously, patrol vehicles aren't like that because we're running them longer, running more mileage. You're not going to be able to sell them just to the general public per se. So those typically are the ones who, it takes a while. And what you hope is at some point you have enough, if you bring all the county vehicles, then you have enough non-emergency vehicles to help take that equity to cover the emergency vehicle, to help offset some of those costs. To truly do it, we do it as a county-wide program versus, each individual department, but that's not my decision to make.
So do you see in the future that we will be buying more emergency vehicles through this type of program? If you're only replacing 4, how many do you
Well, yeah,
typically?
each year you're gonna have to come in and add more vehicles, because, that's gonna only be 8 of, 50-something vehicles that we have. So, as time goes on, you're gonna have to continue to increase buying until you get all the vehicles onto a rotation.
Okay. Didn't I see a chart with that on it?
Yes. You go back, you reference the fleet planning analysis. That will give you an overview, and this is for the 14 non-emergency. But to the chief's point, the non-emergency vehicles are the vehicles that actually do the best because they have less aftermarket. And again, you're able to turn some of these half-ton trucks over the course of 12 months and really reap the rewards from an equity standpoint for the county. That coupled with the fact that you have lower maintenance and your operational costs will go down dramatically by doing that too. So it's really getting you back on a healthier cycle. Right now, just for the 14 as an example that you have that are non-emergency, if you call your attention to the top left, you'll see current fleet, but below that you'll see your current cycle, where it says 17.5 years. So what that means to the county is that you're replacing less than 1 vehicle per year, and it's going to take you almost 17 years to replace your entire fleet. We simply want to shorten that and impact both capital and operating budgets.
And these are all non-emergency?
On the 14, that's correct.
So we have 14 vehicles at the sheriff's department that are classified as non-emergency, or would fall in his definition of that?
Yes.
So what happens at the end of this? It's just speculating, it's just not something that is feasible for us. After the 3 years, what happens?
So at the end of 3 years, to answer your question, you have a few different avenues. You can extend the vehicle if you decide that the life of it's still good and you want to extend it for another year. You extend it out, continue to lower your payment by paying on the residual book value. You can trade it back or have us sell it on your behalf. Or if you say, you know what, at the end of the day, we thought this program was great, but it wasn't what we thought it was going to be in the long term, you just pay down the residual and the vehicle's yours. So you have flexibility throughout to be able to make any determination based upon the program. But we're always going to recommend getting out of that vehicle at the right time because we know inherently your resale is going to drop and also your maintenance expenses are going to continue to climb if you hold on to it longer. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it did, I think. At the end of the term, the 3 years, we'll just go off that because I think that's what we're talking about.
Sure.
We would have to have and we decided that it wasn't a good fit, we would probably have to have a pretty good sized wad of cash to then fill our fleet.
So not at all. If you look at the menu pricing, and if you look to the bottom column for the ERVs, and you'll see your residual book balance.
What page are you on?
It's your menu.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right.
If you look at your residual book balance, each vehicle that's left owed is at $3,200. So if you do that over 4 vehicles, you're just at about $13,000 all in for all of those vehicles. So again, it gives you the flexibility, but also we want to look at it to make sure that we're maximizing your resale proceeds.
Miss Mary, due to the annual cost associated, is this something that we would have to bid?
No, because they usually, from what I understand, they would go like to Caldwell Country like we do and probably get our pricing. But because of their resale value, I mean, they can get a better price than what we can get selling it on auction and stuff.
Yeah, what actually initiate the buying process is, you know, these vehicles are already pre-bidded out, like the ones we're buying right now. The Sheriff's Association of Texas started a vehicle procurement thing. They reached out to all the dealerships in Texas and say, hey, this the prices on these vehicles, and then they, you know, awarded the best value to kind of each region. So the vehicles have already been bidded out, and like if we buy from Caldwell Country, it's usually already bidded out on the Tarrant County bid or HCAC that way. So it's already pre-bidded out when we buy the vehicles. So we're buying them at the government rate, and they get to sell them at just the general market rate. So that's why there's that big price difference, you know, because we're buying it at an actual rate and be able to use, say, the non-emergency vehicles for the year. Well, they're going just straight out at retail rate, you know, when they go to sell it. So.
On the vehicles you called on, how many vehicles are you waiting on to be delivered on this year's budget?
3.
3. And then we're buying those outright, so that's $100,000 or so that we have dedicated for those 3 vehicles?
Yeah, and once we, you know, getting them outfitted and stuff, we're looking at, you know, close to 50,000 a piece.
Okay, so those are patrol vehicles you're waiting on? All right.
Yeah.
Yes,
And that's not a part of our plan, or your proposed plan?
That's the emergency vehicles that
That's
are
part
on
of it.
there.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we could do whatever. I mean, if we
Well-
want to say that we're going to buy the emergency vehicles
Yeah.
and keep them ourselves, we could do that and go with the non-emergency.
Okay, I'm not trying to complicate this, but we are in the middle of the budget. You don't have the vehicles. If you have 3, you're talking about doing 8 on the initial plan, right? So is there a benefit to us since we haven't taken delivery? Is there a cancellation penalty? And if there's not, on the 3 that we have ordered, take that money and put it to here, and then what would the package be for 11? And is that even a better option for us?
And that's a great question. So today, for the 4 Tahoes, each of them are $32,563. The aftermarket's $17,000, so the cheapest spot on it's It's right at $200,000 if you were to get 4 Tahoes today, or 4 emergency response vehicles. If you were to do all 8 today, it's $313,000. So using the $150,000 budget that the chief currently has for the 3 Tahoes, you're able to do all 8 vehicles under enterprise at $139,000. So they all fit within the current budget of $150,000. But to answer your question, Judge, if you want to do more, we certainly can add in more to show you what that budget would look like too.
I bet you could. But I guess what I'm getting at is, your proposal, or what y'all talked about, is to do 8. And that's, Chief, and correct me if I'm wrong, with you of the impression you got 3 new ones coming in, so effectively you're gonna have 11 vehicles. Is that right or wrong?
Well, in June, I think when we first started talking, that since the vehicles hadn't been delivered, I think those 3 vehicles
Are here?
Now, these are just really kind of arbitrary numbers of what we're looking at based on the amount of money that was allotted to this year's budget.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so, now, I can't start a program and put the county in a lot of money. I said, I only have this much money in
Right.
the budget, and so that's where those numbers kind of came from.
Ja-
Now, we could play with those numbers and do two CID, or non-emergency vehicles, and put, 1 more on the patrol vehicle.
Well, effectively, we're dealing with 2 budget numbers. Jesse, do you have any idea what the true number is in this year's budget for the SO vehicles?
In fiscal year 2020,
No, the budget year,
2021,
yeah, no, 2020, and then what do we have proposed in 2021? What is the value, what is the total of those 2 numbers?
I can get those numbers, but off the top of my head, no, sir, I don't.
Okay, do you have any?
I think what the numbers that were put in, we're looking at, where it's 3 vehicles again. I think when I broke it down on this.
Okay, so you have 150 in this year, and you have about
Well,
150 in
I
next
think
year?
it may be actually closer to 180 for next year's budget.
Okay,
Just because in some of the proposal stuff, I broke down the actual cost.
So-
But that's including the radios and the
Yeah.
handhelds and
okay.
everything.
So we got about 330,000 potentially budgeted. So some of it's equipment, but some of it,
Yeah.
most of it's vehicles. So I guess, if we're not gonna get those vehicles in time, and we think this is the right thing to do, and I'm leaning on the auditors for their input on that also, and the commissioners, but, figure out what it's gonna be, and,
Yeah, I mean, it's all gonna come down, in my opinion, come down to a financial decision as far as what's gonna be best for the county. 'Cause
well, that's our
years
county
ago-
attorney's input.
Yeah, years ago, we used to lease the vehicles and, more just kind of a financial lease type thing.
Right.
And at the end of the term, we kept the vehicle, we paid $1 and kept the vehicle, but, the interest charge on those was like $8,000 a year back then, and in the 3 years' time, I was looking at it, that's, 3 years' time, that's 24,000, that's a
That's
whole
another
other
vehicle,
vehicle.
yeah.
And we got away from that and went to straight buying the vehicles, But obviously, 'cause I read the fine print on y'all's budget thing. and,
Well, I shared with
any
Jeff.
suggestions to help, decrease the cost for the county and stuff, and this was something I ran across through various conferences and stuff, and reached out to them. A lot of the new stuff is now that even some of your dealerships are going into a kind of a lease mode and stuff directly now, trying to sell vehicles, so, just kind of reached out, just looking, hey, is there a way we can save the county
Sure.
money and keep going now?
And have more up-to-date vehicles.
Obviously,
along the way.
I'm gonna refer to, if I could do all the spreadsheets, I look at the equity and stuff like that, but, there's still some unknowns. You don't know what you're gonna sell the vehicles for. You don't know what they're gonna be for in the next few years. The only thing you do is make projections. But on a finance aspect, dollar for dollar, I'm gonna leave it to the experts who deal with the dollars every day, and which would be in the auditor's office.
I
I
know-
can say it's gonna be a benefit, but,
Well, in one of our first meetings, and Jeff, I made the comment that our county attorney, when he hears lease, he hears fleece. And I shared that with
Yeah.
you, But John, do you see any red flags in the information or contract thus far?
Judge, this is,
No.
yeah, I think
Okay.
you guys need to be okay. You're gonna need to spend some time looking at this and maybe do some hypotheticals. I haven't heard what the maximum amount, or what, I better say, what the minimum amount of number of vehicles is. But I would think that if I were on the court, I would want to call other counties or municipalities and see how it's working. So that what I asked Jeff to do, if he would, and he doesn't have to, and I would just point out that paragraph 3C of the master equity lease agreement, fairly convoluted as to what we owe at the end of the term. And I think he may have tried to cover that in the menu pricing, but I can tell you that he's certainly good at what, Jeff's good at what he does, but I would want, if I were in your shoes deciding how to spend these dollars, I would want to be sure that I had gone over this multiple times, because based upon today's presentation alone, I wouldn't feel confident doing it. So I would say call other counties, whatever you as individuals need to do to be sure you're okay. There is also a way, of course, that you just dip your foot in the pool and you go with a couple of vehicles, as opposed to saying, let's do 4, or let's do 8, or let's do 12. You do less than that if there's not a minimum. I don't know what that is. And then the same issue I think that was brought up is, I'm always struck by the question of whether or not competitive bidding is required. Are there competitors out there that are also doing this? And you may want to find that out. So I would just throw all of those things at your feet and say, you decide what of those things are important to you. But as far as the document and legalities, this is more a policy issue than it is a legal issue.
I have called the judge in Waller County, and I have called the judge in Washington County, and both of them are pleased with what they've seen so far and the business that they've done so far. One of the judges is 100% A-OK. One of the judges, his comment was, and I'll let you do your homework and find out who, but he said that the only issue he's had so far is that it seems like they've changed account managers with him more than he's been comfortable. So, you know, I'm not saying you need employment contracts or what have you, but he felt like that just about the time they get comfortable with somebody, then they're dealing with somebody else. And when you mention family, you know, if you want to maintain the relationship long-term, otherwise we'll kick you out of the house when you're 18.
Understood.
So, I mean, so, John, in that respect, I think, you know, getting the judge's perspectives is one thing, but maybe getting the auditor's perspectives, and maybe Mary, I could challenge you and or Jesse to
I've talked to 2 auditors and a city manager.
Okay.
And the 2 auditors that I've spoke with, they're not totally comfortable with it. They haven't been in the program long enough to see if it's truly gonna save the county money.
Is the Enterprise their provider?
Yes.
Okay.
I called 3 of the ones that were on here. Then I talked with a city manager, and he said, you know, when they got started, they bought, I don't know, about 17 or 18 vehicles the first year, with the plan of doubling that the next year, but finances put a quietus on that, and they got a few, and then they got a few more. So they're getting ready to buy even more, or lease more.
So they must be satisfied to a point?
Yes,
Okay.
Was that the city of Navasota? Did I not see the city of Navasota?
yeah,
Yes.
I talked with Lance.
Okay. And they should be about almost 3 years in, I mean,
I can confirm that, but that sounds pretty accurate.
yeah, if I remember when they got the Tahoes, when it's.
And they are pleased pleased in the fact that when they started with Enterprise, their fleet was pretty
Yes,
old.
It was.
And so, you know, Lance felt like it was a good deal for the city, because now they have newer vehicles, they don't have to worry about them breaking down and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe we need to get some references that been with Enterprise longer term, instead of just
Right.
some regional ones, outlying areas, you know.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, you know, Enterprise is in here to make money. They're making money some way, but at the cost of their percentage, are we still gaining or are we losing?
Right.
That's just something that we gotta
Can I ask,
come up with.
do we have access to actual sales data, your actual sales data?
On previous vehicles that were sold, I can provide a couple entities that we partnered with, that would show their resale. Sure.
I'd be interested if we're gonna do
Yeah.
any type of analysis, I would like to see.
Yeah.
Like, maybe the last 3 years, several different scenarios of, what the county or entity paid for versus what they sold.
Yeah, I know we got one for an independent school district that actually decided to turn their vehicles in earlier because the market was so strong with pickup trucks in Texas, so I certainly can provide that. And just to answer the county attorney's questions on the contracts, these have all been vetted through the other counties as well. And we currently have partnerships with TIPS, with Choice Partners, and also Sourcewell to vet the contracts. But as far as addendums needed, we're happy to provide those. We just went through this with Leon County as well, so that's easy to walk you through. And then as far as the question pertaining to at the end of term, I know you had a question as far as section 3C. Well, I'm not an attorney. I can tell you that at the end of the day, what would be owed would be the residual book balance. But again, going back to the numbers that we provided, they're very conservative on the resale proceeds, and I'm very confident in backing those up based upon the team that we have that evaluates this fleet, in essence, like a stock market, by looking at the right time to sell these vehicles on your behalf. So you have the flexibility to do it. You can maximize the budget by doing more with less. And you have an expert team that's going to be meeting with you locally to ensure that we're providing proactive recommendations for you. So Waller County, as an example, started with a handful of vehicles, and then after year one, we started to slowly progress moving forward. Alan Younts, I know, is a big fan of ours, and so is Judge Duhan, because of how well we've been able to work with them and work within the structure of the budget. If year two changes and your budget's a lot smaller, we can work within that as well. So you have the flexibility to do that. So there isn't a set number per se to answer the county attorney's question on what you start with.
Yeah, I just would tell the members of the court, read 3C.
We don't have the contract.
Oh, you don't? Okay, well, you want me to read 3C?
Yeah.
No, you don't. I promise you don't.
Maybe you could get us a copy of it, but we don't have that.
I will be happy to get you a copy of it, and I don't necessarily have to read it all, but lessee agrees to pay lessor within 30 days after the end of the term for each vehicle, additional rent equal to the excess, if any, of the book value of such vehicle over the greater of, number one, the fair market value of such vehicle is determined by lessor in good faith based upon third-party sources such as Black Book, or number two, except as provided below, 20% of the delivered price of such vehicle as set forth in the applicable schedule. If the book value of such vehicle is less than the greater of, number one, the fair market value of such vehicle as determined by lessor in good faith based upon third-party sources such as Black Book, or number two, except as provided below, 20% of the delivered price of such vehicle is set forth in the applicable schedule, lessor agrees to pay such deficiency to lessee as a terminal rental adjustment within 30 days after the end of the applicable term, notwithstanding the foregoing, if the term for a vehicle is greater than 48 months, including any extension of the term for such vehicle, or two, the mileage of a vehicle at the end of the term is greater than the 15,000 miles per year on average, prorated on a daily basis. For example, if the mileage on a vehicle with a term of 36 months is greater than 45,000 miles, or number three, in the sole judgment of lessor, a vehicle has been subject to damage or any abnormal or excessive wear and tear, the calculations described in the two immediately preceding sentences shall be made without giving effect to clause number two in each such sentence. The book value of a vehicle means the sum of, number one, the delivered price of the vehicle as set forth in the applicable schedule, minus number two, the total depreciation reserve paid by lessee to lessor with respect to such vehicle, plus number three, all accrued and unpaid rent and or other amounts owed by lessee with respect to such vehicle. So the menu can give you a number that says hypothetical circumstances $2,000, What I'm telling you is this is a little convoluted, and in each case, it may very well be different. And so you just need to have some comfort level with that, and you need to run as many hypotheticals, I think, or even true calculations as possible, so you see every possibility as to what's going to be owed at the end of the term. That was my point.
And to further explain that, the way we've structured these leases is specific to the vehicle and also the miles on them, and we depreciate them to ensure that you're positive equity throughout the length of the lease. Now, if a vehicle was in an accident, you would handle it the same way that you're handling it today. You would turn it over to the insurance, and the insurance would pay it off. On this end, we're always going to stand behind our numbers as far as our conservative equity, because we know, based upon these mileage and the historical data that we put together, it's very strong as far as what you're going to be able to see for proceeds at the end of this, when we sell the vehicle on your behalf. So we feel really good about that, but I'm certainly happy to be able to provide those 3C in layman's terms as well, because there is a lot of information within that.
Now, Chief, are we on about a 5 or 6 year kind of turnaround currently when we try to replace
On the,
on our
patrol vehicles,
on our patrol
yeah,
vehicles?
Definitely, easy, so, you know, this year we've gone through a lot of engines, transmissions, and then obviously on the patrol vehicles, we go from anywhere from pounds to suspects running in cars on accidents, so, you know, at the end of the lease, likelihood of that patrol vehicle coming in pristine is
Slim.
Now, the non-emergency vehicles, obviously we fare better. We're not out so much at night, having to run emergency traffic and hitting hogs and cows and stuff, and suspects crashing into us, so they're a little more, coming a little better. You know, my current one is 6 years old, about to be, going in next year will be 7, so, you know, a little over 100,000, 120,000 on it, so that particular one we will probably keep close to 8 in years. As long as it's still running good.
We also, just to clarify, we evaluate the vehicles as far as damages on them, and if it makes sense for the resale to fix the vehicle, we're definitely going to recommend it. So they're going to evaluate that prior. We have a separate team that would do that to ensure that we're maximizing those proceeds. But if there's too much damage, we would work through that as well. But we're very familiar, obviously, with the police and sheriff's side and what we can be able to get for those vehicles when we sell them.
But our investigators probably average around 6 years, and then we try to rotate them out because they get higher mileage and just kind of.
How many emergency vehicles do we have?
Off the top of my head, I'm probably going to say a little over 20. Probably around 23, 24. We always
Almost
keep-
half of what you have.
Yeah, we always keep a couple extra for 3 or 4 for spares. And when a vehicle breaks down and goes in the shop or has to go to the body shop, then we can rotate it out. And, you know, there's been times, you know, several times this year when we are out of reserve vehicles and officers are having to switch, you know, and trade out cars. And that puts a lot of wear and tear on vehicles, because then you're talking, they're running 24 hours, you know, a day, and it's just a lot to maintain on a vehicle. Because, you know, we don't necessarily look at the mileage, but we also look at the actual engine hours that the idles do.
Well, Jeff, in a workshop, workshops are designed for us to let you present to us ask questions. You can ask questions, but in a workshop, we're not committed to make a decision, yes or no. But we have some homework to do. Before we shut down to commissioners, are there any other questions, or auditors or county attorney? Anybody have questions for Jeff? Camille, did Jeff leave anything out?
No, I think Jeff did a great job getting us through this. just want to point out, from a national perspective, and somebody mentioned this a little bit earlier, of the interrelation between the two sides of your fleet. The emergency vehicles are probably the most critical ones that you operate. There's not much in the way of true savings to be found on that type of vehicle. But the approach that most counties and cities across the country take is two-sided. Generating equity out of the light-duty side of your fleet, the CID units, the admin units, cycling those vehicles, pulling equity out of them, and then using that fund to help offset the cost of new ERV units. It's a really common approach that we see across the country. And in this case, looking at the fleet structure that it is here, it works very well for you. I'm glad to hear that we can continue this conversation. We're happy to get you more reference material. Somebody had mentioned resale data. This is all information that we can provide you. So I'm glad to hear that we can talk through this, and we look forward to partnering with you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Anything else?
I would just request that if we go with this and an account representative is appointed, that it be somebody that's been there a while and that plans on staying a while.
100%. Yep. And I can tell you that I know exactly the county that the judge is referring to. That was an anomaly. We have account managers that have been with us for 25 plus years. So, and I know exactly one that lives pretty close to this county that handles a lot of those counties today. So rest assured we'll take care of that.
Okay.
Then with that, we'll go to agenda item number 3, a motion to adjourn. Is there one?
I make the motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Second. There's a motion before the court on agenda item number 3 by Commissioner Walker, seconded by Commissioner Cox. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.